think about why it matters to be a good person? And the answer to that, I think, is pretty simple. Aristotle, one of the most famous philosophers of all time, sort of wrote, in this vein, human beings are built to flourish. Sort of like a knife is built to cut well. If your knife is dull, it's not fulfilling its purpose, right? Like no one wants a dull knife. A human being who isn't flourishing isn't fulfilling their purpose. And then he wrote, and the only way for a person to flourish is for that person to be good.
Welcome to the Cultivating Leaders Podcast, where we get inside the minds of leaders to harvest great ideas and lessons that help you grow as a difference maker in food and agriculture. I'm your host and curiosity captain, Nicole Ursig. Today's guest is someone who doesn't just talk about leadership, he lives it. Cascetti is a nationally recognized speaker who challenges audiences to lead with character, live with integrity, and have the moral courage to do what's right, even when it's hard. From Fortune 500 companies and student leaders to athletes and first responders, Corey's message connects with anyone seeking to live a more meaningful life. He's a professor of ethics and business law at the University of Denver, author of the best-selling book, Inspire Integrity, Chase an Authentic Life, and challenges audiences to pursue what he calls the real rabbits. Things like integrity, strong relationships, and peace of mind. This episode is for anyone who wants to build a career with purpose and lead in a way that truly matters. Corey, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Nicole. Who wrote that introduction? It's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to share credit with Savannah on that one. That was a team effort.
Fabulous. I should bring y'all with me on the road.
Oh, happy to help. So tell us, Corey, what did we miss from your bio?
No, well, I have two little girls, Sophie and Sydney, and they're precious. One is 11 and one is 8, and been married to my wife, Jillian, for 20 years.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. Sounds like such fun ages, too.
Oh, they're precious.
Awesome. Okay, so you have built a career around helping people, especially live with character and integrity. Tell me, what led you to do this type of work?
Well, that's a long story, but I'll make it short. So I went to law school, and I went to law school because I thought I wanted to be rich. I wanted to be sort of a powerhouse lawyer, and that would make me happy, right? And so you get that stuff, you become, a lawyer or whatever, you make a lot of money, and you're sitting there going, maybe I climbed the ladder of success and realized it was leaning against the wrong wall. So I took a teaching job at the University of Denver. Someone actually died. A professor died. And so there was an opening. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's a good job. Someone has to die for there to be an opening, right? And it was a law department. So I thought that was great because I could use my law degree to teach law, but it was also an ethics department. And I didn't really care about that, right? I just thought, let me teach these law classes and just leave this ethics out of it. That's boring and who cares? And then I started to teach it and think about it. And I'm saying to myself, man, this is right. And this stuff works. And if you really want to live an authentic life, you have to be a good person.
Oh, what does it mean to be a good person?
Well, I would call it, you're deeply content. You have strong relationships with a few people. You don't need 100 friends, but 3, and you are a high moral character person, right? You have certain virtues that drive you. You look out for the greatest good for the greatest number of people. You think of, what is your sense of duty to this world, to your family, to the people around you. So, it's complicated, right? It isn't easy, but I think that's a kind of life that will allow someone to flourish. And then if you are also rich, then who cares? I mean, it's great. I have no problem with that. Be as successful as you want to be. Just don't let that part drive you.
How do you define that? As we get into this, I think this is a really interesting conversation for us to be having with the backdrop of some of the online conversation right now, right? So you're talking about living an authentic life in terms of chasing after the type of success that you want. How do you help people define what that is? What is success? What is good moral character? Those types of things.
People at that level probably went to business school. And in that business school, I'm certain there was an ethics class, but it didn't work. Like it didn't take something about it didn't work. You see all these companies that cheat and they're run by people who have business degrees. And in those business programs are ethics classes. And so I think if you think about it like that, like these are just some rules I need to follow. This is why so many undergraduates cheat in college, right? The honor code is basically meaningless because it's just words on a piece of paper. What we don't spend a lot of time doing, and what I try to do, is explain why being a good person matters, right? And not just if you do this, you get in trouble. My friend talks about it like a spider web, where the crafty people will just find holes in the spider web to get around the honor code without getting in trouble, or to break the mission statement or to break the law. They'll be crafty and they'll find the holes, right? So instead, I think you need to think about why it matters to be a good person. And the answer to that, I think, is pretty simple. Aristotle, one of the most famous philosophers of all time, sort of wrote, in this vein, human beings are built to flourish. Sort of like a knife is built to cut well. If your knife is dull, it's not fulfilling its purpose, right? Like no one wants a dull knife. A human being who isn't flourishing isn't fulfilling their purpose. And then he wrote, and the only way for a person to flourish is for that person to be good. It's the only way. So it wasn't like a multiple choice list. So A, you can flourish if you're rich. B, you can flourish if your resume is good. C, you can flourish if you're a good person. No, it was just C, right? And so if everyone's goal in life is to flourish, and who would say it isn't, then the only way to do that is to be good. And so that's how I like to talk about it.
Is there a difference between ethics and morals?
Sure, you could say ethics is your code, like a code of values that you want to live by. A company has a code of ethics, right? It's like we commit to X, Y, Z. Morals is kind of in your own life why you believe things are important and how you act, right? So I would focus on the moral piece before the ethics piece.
Okay. So define it for myself first and then
Well, but with using like reason and make it make sense. So a moral relativist would define it too, and they would say something like, "Well, I can do whatever I want because I'm a rational human being." Like you got to have a standard upon which you're defining it. So a lot of people use their faith, right? Like their faith will define it for them, or some people will use philosophy, or I believe in serving my community. Like whatever it is, it should be grounded in something good.
so how do we navigate this when like my morals and what I view as ethics may be different from someone else's or maybe even different from an organization that I'm involved in?
Well, let's take the first question first, right? That's okay. There are certain things I think are non negotiable that would apply in almost every culture. For instance, honesty. I don't know a lot of people in any culture who would say it doesn't matter to be honest. Compassion, courage, like these are things that matter everywhere, right? And then culturally there are other different things that would, like in Britain or Great Britain, being self-deprecating is seen as a virtue. In America it would be seen as a weakness. So maybe as you push it down the scale of importance there are differences, but in the big things I think most cultures would agree cheating is wrong, lying is wrong, things like that. Now an organization, if you find yourself in an organization that conflicts with the code of ethics that you've made for yourself, I would not work there. You have a strong resume, right? You've built your abilities, and I would not work at a place like that because that's how you turn bad. You take a company like Enron that cheated. They weren't all cheaters to begin with. 4 of them were, whatever the number was. And then you hang around cheaters long enough, you start cheating.
What would you say to someone who feels like they know what the right thing is to do, but they feel like they'll lose something by doing the right thing?
Well, that's what I tell my kids all the time. It's all part of the experience, right? Like we'll go on a road trip and they'll go, "This is awesome, awesome." And then an hour, "This is boring." And I'm like, "Honey, that's all part of the experience," right? Like if you want to be a good person, you're going to lose stuff. It's actually a really good question, Nicole. And you have to be okay with losing stuff, right? You'll lose money, you'll lose success. You could. It's hard to have everything, but I would rather lose that stuff and have my moral compass intact. And by the way, you don't always lose. In the long run, you win. In the short term in a transactional world you'll lose a little bit, but in the long term good people win, good companies win.
Oh, what would you say to someone who disagrees with that? Who's like, I see corruption all around me. I see people who cheat or who don't live by strong moral standards win all the time. So why should I play by a different rule book?
Yeah, I think no, I think that's what I'm saying. I think in the short term in a transactional world cheaters can prosper, but everyone who's listening to this, go look up a company called Ethisphere. That's all they do is they study companies who are good, and the data shows that companies who are good over the long term prosper way more than companies who cheat. So in the short term, you may not win. In the long term, you'll always win. And I would argue that's also true in an individual capacity. So I would encourage people to play the long game with this, right? Like there are no shortcuts to any place worth going. You've heard that. So you're right. There, those people would be totally right. I don't know in the world we live in now, in the short term, ethics behooves you, but it will in the end.
When you talk about like these companies that are good, is it simply just like we say strong business ethics or is it like doing good in the world too?
I would argue that it's good people deciding how to be good in their context, right? So and good people will do good in the world and good people will look out for each other. So I would argue that it goes back to the individual and those are the kind of people you want to hire. So if you're listening to this and you're interviewing right now If they don't ask you about character, you ask them. Like, how important is character at this company? I always tell people, like, there's two questions I want you to ask. Like, how do you define character at this company, or individually to the person who's interviewing you? And then say, how many people's lives are better because you've worked here for the last year, right? Like, make sure people's lives are better, because, or else do not work there. And then when you're interviewing people, you ask your applicants the exact same questions. And if they don't have good answers to that, I wouldn't hire them.
I like it. So what are green flags that people can look for as outside of those questions as I'm like interviewing at a company or looking for a good company to work for?
So it's not a mission statement. Okay. That's not a red flag. It's just it's stupid. Like, every company that's ever cheated has had a mission statement, right? Like, when I wrote my book, I went and looked them all up. Like, all these companies that had cheated, they had beautiful mission statements. Enron promised, we'll be the company of the highest integrity. All these will be the most transparent, whatever. And it was all bull. So the mission statement doesn't mean much to me. I would look people in the eyes, and because you're going to get to meet more than one person on the interview, right? And just ask, like, hey, on a daily basis, do people take care of each other? Do people care about each other? Or is it everyone for themselves? Like, ask questions outside of the skill set of your job. Because we all know people who are amazingly competent at stuff, but they're terrible people. You do not want to work with someone like that.
No, it's not fun at all. How can leaders create a culture where moral courage is the standard?
So they got to show it. And I might be wrong on this. I don't think I am wrong on this. You can't change a culture from the bottom up, right? It always has to be from the top down. Because here's what will happen: the people who are junior, who go to a company and they want high morale and they don't see it, they're just going to quit. And then the junior people who don't care about high morale, they're going to stay. And the way it works in this country is they fail up to the top of organizations like that. And they didn't care about character then or morale, and they're not going to care about it now. So a leader who wants that in his or her employees has to have it himself, and people have to see it in them.
What I hear you saying is the behavior that you actually witness and the walking the talk matters so, so much more than whatever words are on the wall or mission statement or values that a company has.
Absolutely. And that's a good question too, because I think a mission statement can be really important, because if you live it, it's nice to have some core values written down, right? So I'm not against those. I would say, though, let's live it first and then write that. Like, the honor code at my university is just a DocuSign. I don't know where you went to school, but, like, it was a DocuSign. Who cares? So it's like residence hall contract, accept, meal plan, accept, honor code. They're not even going to read it. Scroll down, accept. So it should be, I'm trying to get them to implement, like, let's have a ceremony. Let's make this serious. You're not going to stop all the cheaters, but it should be taken seriously, or don't have one.
Mm-hmm. How important does accountability for, I'm going to say, like, bad ethics or morals matter in like an environment like that, right? So when you say, like, I am totally relating to what you're saying of so many times a day we're like, yes, accept, yes, sign, whatever. We digitally sign things, we don't read them, we move on. How much does it matter in that proactive standpoint of here's the morals, here's the values, versus on the other side of it of if you break this or if you don't live this way, seeing accountability or negative consequences?
Well, and that's the problem, right? All we do is the accountability piece. So it's punitive, right? If you cheat in college, XYZ bad will happen to you. And so you get an asterisk on your transcript. You may get kicked out. You have to write a letter to your parents, whatever that is. And so that is like scaring people to be good. But I don't think you get a lot of moral credit for not cheating because you don't want your parents to know. So you have to have accountability, right? If someone cheats, you have to get them. Okay, this is how I want to talk about this. If someone lies to you, Nicole, what virtues are broken, right? Well, honesty, trust, integrity, maybe friend. I mean, all of it, right? If you lie to somebody, 6 or 7 virtues are broken in the process.
Yeah, and it severely damaged the relationship. Yeah.
Absolutely. So lying is bad, not just because it's dishonest. It's bad for 20 reasons. And so you tell people why it's wrong to cheat. And I think you try to attack it that way. And then, because you're not going to catch them all, some people are immature, some people don't care, then you have to have the accountability piece on the other side. And I do think you have to enforce it.
Okay. So you need both.
For instance, do you think you get credit for not speeding because you don't want to get a ticket? Like, you don't get moral credit for that. You're just not trying to get a ticket. So I would rather attack the moral piece of it first, but still have the accountability at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. That makes sense. And it seems like what I'm hearing you say is oftentimes in organizations, we miss the front part of like the proactive piece.
Always. That's yes, brilliant. That's why I have a speaking career. Seriously, like that's the whole reason that I do this because we miss it completely. You said it better than I could.
Do you ever see that changing? Or is that a tactic for people and organizations that want to get ahead and move faster?
Well, I think people are scared to do it, right? So how do you like pretend you graduated from college, you have a management degree, right? Or you have an ag degree and you didn't really take an ethics class, but now you're running a company. You'd be scared that how am I supposed to talk about ethics when I never took the class? But I would argue back that you don't have to have taken the class. What does it mean to be a good person to you? Address that in your staff meetings when you hire people, et cetera. Like, I don't think you have to have a philosophical background to be able to talk about this.
Yeah. And especially not to live it.
No, sure. It's crazy, right? Or else the only people who would be good would be philosophy professors. I meet so many people who I think are just really high character people, and they come from all walks of life, right? They're not necessarily priests or pastors, or they're whatever. They're CEOs. They're the people that come clean my office at school. Like they're just really nice people. They're just good people because something inside of them tells them, I want to flourish. I want to be good. It matters.
What advice do you have for people who want to develop that? Because I feel like character and morals and those types, like even ethics, right, in your perspective on them, evolve over time and evolve as you're tested through them. So if I'm a leader who wants to level up, what advice do you have for me to get started in thinking about how I do this better?
So here's the first thing you do. You go take a walk, right? You take your phone, you turn it off, you put it in your pocket, you don't have any headphones on, and you just take a long walk. And you do this as many times as you need to. And you ask yourself these types of questions. Am I a good person? Am I a kind person? Am I, a caring person? Am I envious, jealous, selfish, mean? Find out who you are. Then the next walk, you're going to go and say, okay, this is who I want to be. Okay, the person I want to be does X, Y, Z. And then the next walk, you're going to say, how do I get from where I am now to who I want to be? And then on the fourth walk or whatever, you're going to say, do the people in my life right now, like my friends and colleagues, help me become the person I want to be? And if not, maybe you need a new group of friends or a different group of friends, or you need to supplement, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe you need to change jobs. And so it really is just you. And none of this is to shame you. It's just all to help you, right? It's not a shame walk. It's I want to figure out who I am and I want to be better, but I know I need to surround myself with people who I want to be like. Not perfect people, but good people.
Yeah. I think what you're describing takes courage. And I think there's a difference too between what you're saying is like almost do a mental inventory and evaluation on yourself of even that question of, am I a good person? I think there's plenty of people who are high achieving, probably good people who, even when you ask that question, may say no or maybe incredibly hard on themselves because it's because I'm not here, because I haven't done this. So give me some advice or thoughts on one, having the courage to really look yourself in the mirror when you might not like what you see, and how you balance it with like, when am I being too hard on myself versus like defining what a good person means to me?
Well, so that's great. Two things. The definition of courage, the one I like best is fear that has said its prayers and decided to go forward anyway. Like you can't be courageous unless you're scared. So yeah, to exhibit courage, you have to overcome fear. And so I think that's really powerful. And then the second thing is I've done this is my 21st year doing this. I never get mad at someone's first reaction to something, right? If it's anger or bitter or jealous, we're just humans. I get mad if you act on it, so don't beat yourself up if your initial impression is anger or rage or whatever. That's fine, but just don't act on it and figure out in your mind how you should, how a good person would act on that information. So don't beat yourself up about just being a human.
How often do you do this for yourself, Corey?
Well, this is cool part about my job. I get to do it daily. And my wife gets mad at me, because she's like, it's so easy for you. Well, only because I think about it 14 hours a day, right? So it's on my mind all the time. So I do it all the time. Like I'll go on a 15-mile bike ride with nothing and I'll just think.
That honestly almost sounds scary to me of like no headphones.
Well, at first it is, right? Because no one wants to cope with their reality. But on that bike ride, I realized, hey, Corey, you're an impatient person. And when you're impatient, you make bad decisions. And when you make bad decisions, bad thing happen to you. So if I could go back in time and be more patient, better things would happen to me. But if all I do is have my music on, or I'm sitting here doom scrolling all day long, I'll never know that about myself. There's this quote, it's attributed to Einstein: insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? Like, have you heard that? And so if you never take any time to think about yourself, then you're just going to do the same thing over and over again.
And it's not going to change.
It will not change. In the same way that if you don't like, I tell my students this all the time, if you don't like your grades, but you don't study differently, you're going to get the same grades. You take the LSAT. A lot of my students want to go to law school. They don't do well on the LSAT. How are you going to do it different next time? No, I'm just going to study like I always have. Well, then you're going to get the same score. Save your money, right? Like you said, have the courage to know who you are and do something different. And hey, if your friends don't appreciate that, then you could find new friends. There's how many billion people in this world? And all you need are 3 friends.
You said that at the beginning too, of like, you don't need 100 friends, maybe you need 3. Where does that philosophy come from?
Well, if you read books, and I just think this is fun, about humans who live the longest, and people write about this, and they do a lot of things in common. Like they have a good diet, they exercise, there's a lot of stuff. But one of the things they have is a small group of really good friends. They have a community of people who care about them, who rush in when everyone else rushes out, right? Like that is key to life. But what I think a lot of younger people do is say, I need 20 friends, 30 friends, because social media says that, but that's ridiculous. So you have a network, which should be as big as it can be. I love that. But you also need a soul circle. And if you don't have that, that's why people are so lonely. In England, they have a minister of loneliness, like it's a high government official to deal only with loneliness. And, we're connected all over the place, and yet we're all really lonely. And it's an ever selfish world, right? Like COVID showed us that. So you got to find some people who would be there.
Yeah. I like even 3 too, like feels very achievable.
Listen, I think if you have more than 8, you can't be a good friend to all of them.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
Right? You're going to be halfway on all the relationships because you also have your life to live. And so how about 3 to 5 people? And the younger you are, the lower that number should be.
Okay. So the younger you are, the lower that number should be of like close friends.
Because it's hard to find those lifelong friendships. So don't force yourself into something that isn't going to happen because you're 25. So find 3. And then when you're my age, you're in your 40s, okay, find 5, and then you're good. And then you don't just become exclusive and those are your only 5 people. Again, your network should be huge. You should have tons of relationships, but you got to have a soul circle.
I like that. Developing a soul circle. Okay, so we've talked about ethics and relationships. One of the other things that you talk a lot about is authenticity. So how do you define an authentic life?
So it's finding out who you are and being that. So you're not someone else so that you fit in. And this doesn't just happen in high school and college. It does. Of course it does, right? Like the first week of college, everyone says to themselves, everyone, I don't want to go out like that many times. I don't want to drink this much. I don't want to party this much. But if I don't do it, I won't fit in. Everybody has that mental conversation, right? And then when you go to law school like I did, it's if I don't go to a corporate law firm, I'm not a very good person. And then blah, blah, blah. If I don't live in this neighborhood, if I don't drive this kind of car, if I don't vacation, if I don't join the country club, the problems just become different when you get older. But if you don't care about that crap, then don't chase it. Remember, you're trying to flourish. It's impossible to flourish if you are fake. So I would say find out who you are and be that, be whoever you want, as long as that is a good person. And if people don't accept you for who you are, then screw them. And you'll find some other people who will. I do a lot of talks to men. What does it mean to be a man? That's like a huge thing these days. I mean, and my definition of that is just be any kind of man you want as long as you're a good person. Like, be who you want to be. If you want to be tough and strong, cool. If you want to be athletic, if you want to be cerebral, like, I don't care. Just be a good person. There's no one way to be a man. And when you say that to these young men, they're just like, oh my gosh, no one's ever said that to me. And women do the same thing. I have to be skinny. I have to be pretty. I have to get good grades. Women just look at it different than the men do, but it's the same BS.
Yeah. You said a couple of times of like being a good person. I feel like a lot of people, the good person and the authenticity oftentimes can like have friction, especially because of what we've been told externally good means. So is good defined internally or sometimes from an ethical standpoint, it's defined societally, right?
Okay, so let me start this way. Your value doesn't come from your grades, right? Your worth doesn't come from your grades. Your worth doesn't come from the job you have. Your worth doesn't come from your resume, right? Your worth comes from who you are as a person and the dignity you possess as a human being. Your worth comes from that. And the way you plug into the world and the way you plug into other people, like your worth comes from that. Not that those other things don't matter, they matter a lot, just not to define your worth. So you have to say, I am who I am inside, and I want that to be a good person, and how I express that. So, yeah, it really does come internally. But I don't think you could say, well, I don't care what anybody thinks of me, because then you become weird, right? So here's how I look at that. I only care about what people think about me if they love me or have my best interests at heart. Then I care a lot. Like if my wife says to me, "Hey, I think you should be doing this," like I'm going to listen to that. If my kids were to say that to me, if one of my students at University of Denver would say that to me, I would listen to them. But if I listened to every piece of criticism I ever get after a speech or whatever, I couldn't do this job anymore. Find people who love you, who want you to be better, and when they tell you something critical, it's meant in the spirit of making you better.
What about if that goes against when you talk about authenticity and being who you are? What if you have someone in your life who does love you or does have your best interests at heart? And I think this could be in a professional situation. This could be in a family situation, right? Where they're giving you feedback that is well intended, but hurtful and not helping you live an authentic life.
You got to be able to express that to them, right? But you know what I found in life, because I get pretty defensive about stuff. I mean, everyone does, right? They might be right, and I would not like trash it away. Like if someone really loves you and they say something and it hurts you, like let them know it hurt you, but don't just discount what they're saying. Sometimes you can. Like I've had people who have loved me who have given me bad advice, right? So I'm not saying take every piece, but I'm saying don't just initially discard it because it hurts you, because they're not trying to hurt you. Like I always like to think of intentions with stuff. So, when you ban a mascot or whatever, we have a controversial, we're the Pioneers, University of Denver Pioneers, and it's a controversial mascot for a lot of reasons. But I would look at that and go, okay, what was the intent of that? And if the intent was biased or bigoted, well, then get rid of it. If the intent wasn't, then maybe you don't. And the same thing is, what's the intent of the person saying that to you? And if it's meant for positive, then just shrug some of that off and listen to them.
I like the reframing it through intent because that feels a lot easier to, I'm going to use the word judge, and I'm not sure that's the right way, but, or maybe even filter of determine like what's good or what's worth listening to and what's not, or what's worth fighting and what's worth not.
Well, and you don't exist just to have your butt kissed all day. My
Yeah.
students, younger generations are just, that's what they've been accustomed to. Like everybody gets a trophy. But hey, it's sometimes if someone loves you, like if my daughter brings home a piece of artwork, okay, and it's awesome, I'll tell her it's awesome. If it's no good, I'll be like, well, I've seen better. And then I laugh and give her a kiss. I don't want her to think it's good if it's not good. Like she knows I love her. You got to be honest with people, but you want to do it with love and compassion.
I like that. If someone who is listening to this feels disconnected from who they want to be, we talked about the walk. What's the first step that they should take? And it's okay if you go back to that walk, but I'm just curious.
Well, it's like AA, admit you have a problem. I mean, I really think that that's a powerful thing. So admit to yourself that you are not as good a person as you want to be. And because of that, you're probably not as happy as you want to be. Or admit that you're chasing money or you're chasing looks. Like you're trying to be pretty and you're hoping that'll make you happy. Get newsflash, it won't. Because I know a lot of pretty women who are miserable. Do you, Nicole? I mean, they're everywhere. I know a lot of handsome men who are miserable. I know a lot of rich people who are miserable. Popular people, look how many celebrities have depression. So, admit to yourself that what you're chasing is probably fake. Then the walk comes in and it's like, okay, so what should I be doing? And then I would go out there and I would read as much as you can about this, don't just listen to me. But what does it mean to be a good person? We'll land in the same sort of place, most people.
Mm-hmm. I think you just hit on something that what I'm hearing you say is a lot of this does tie back to happiness. If we talk about flourishing or fulfillment or purpose, it feels like some of what you're describing is, hey, if you want to pursue happiness, if you want to be happy, these are some of the keys to get there.
Well, let's define the word right. It's deep contentedness with your life. And I use the word happy. to mean that. I don't mean this trite, we're at a Taylor Swift concert, it's fun for 3 hours. I mean deep, deep contentment. But here's what the word contentment means to me. Okay. I'm satisfied with where I am in my life right now, but I have audacious goals for the future. So when you say contentment to somebody, like, oh, you're asking me to settle. No, I'm asking you to be happy now, because if you're not happy now, when will you be? Because you're always going to go, well, when this happens, when this happens, when this happens, it will never happen enough. So who wouldn't want to be content? Just define the word right.
Yeah. I got so excited when you said that because one of my words of the year is audacious. And so thinking about having audacious, like crazy big goals and dreams, but also enjoying where you're at just very much resonates with, I think, where I'm just going to say me personally, but also I think a lot of our audience in terms of where you're at in your career. And I think Savannah and I have heard several other leaders say this on our podcast of like, enjoy where you're at. It's not all about getting to the next rung on the ladder. I mean, still pursue those things, but don't forget to just enjoy this phase.
We're not guaranteed another day. Open up the newspaper. I don't really drink. I don't spend a lot of time drinking. I want to enjoy. Like, if today's my last day, I want to remember it. Like, I want to be deep into this life, and because you're not guaranteed another day, you want to be content now. But because you probably will have another day, then you want to have goals.
Okay, so this podcast is really focused for people who are wanting to level up in their career or who want to be great leaders in the workplace. What do you think are some non-negotiable traits of being a good leader?
Okay, I'm going to say this, going to sound counterintuitive. Don't delete this out, okay? You want to flourish in your job, never put your job ahead of your family. Like, have your priorities straight. So my family comes first and my job comes lower down the rung. And if you do that, you have a way better chance of being successful at your job, because you won't always be internally conflicted. You won't be frustrating your spouse all the time. You'll be there for your kids, the things that most people want in their heart. Okay, so level up with your family first. Then once you have that right, go find the best job you possibly can that allows you to do that. Go make a dent in the universe, but not at the expense of your family. And I don't hear a lot of people talk like that, but I would take that to my grave as the most important thing I say to anybody. I've literally stood on a stage in front of 1 million people over the last 20 years. And that I'll take that to my grave as the most important thing I'll say to anyone.
I wholeheartedly agree. Here's my question for you, Corey. Do you think people can grow in these ways without learning some of these lessons the hard way?
Yeah, well, yes and no. Not every single one of them. That stupid line, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Like, I hate that because that's exhausting. Who wants to live that way? I'm going to keep having my ass kicked and then keep getting back up and like, okay, fine. Yeah, like some lessons you got to learn yourself, but not every single one. Like I had to learn a lot of lessons myself because no one ever talked to me like this. And I'm tired. So like try to learn as many as you can, not the hard way. And then some of it is life's hard knocks, but please don't be so stubborn, that you just will only learn when something bad happens to you. That's exhausting.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Now, let me reframe it. Even what you're talking about, right? Of learning to put your family first before your job, or learning to look in the mirror and have courage to address what's hard. Is any of this pursuit of a life where you're flourishing without some type of conflict and hard work?
No, I think the conflict's fun. Like I think it's a good part of it, right? Like you don't want to just coast through it all. There's no challenge to that. I say this to my wife all the time. She's a surgeon. She went to Cornell Medical School, and she's transitioning into a business owner, which is a whole different skill set, right? Like they don't teach any of that in medical school. I say to her all the time, honey, play chess, not stress. Like think of this as a game of chess as opposed to a bout of stress. And there are strategic moves to be made. And in chess, you lose pieces, right? No one wins a chess game without losing any pieces. And so all you do is stress about everything, then that's brutal. But the challenges are fun. I love it.
Yes. I think as humans, we're designed to want to solve problems and overcome things. Like that's part of it. And I really like that analogy. If you think about high performing leaders, no one gets there without some bumps and bruises. And so I like that chess analogy because you're going to lose things, but that's normal if you're pursuing this type of exceptional life where you want to flourish.
Think about our political discourse today, okay? Think about America today. I say this to my students all the time because I teach constitutional law and they're frustrated by the national dialogue or the nation's policies or whatever. And what I end up saying to them is, do you really want to live in a country where every single person agrees with you? I mean, that's called North Korea. Like, they don't really agree. They just have to, or they, so you don't want that. You want to live in a society where people disagree. And you want to live in a society where there are challenges. It shouldn't come that easy because then you don't learn anything.
And I feel like if it came easy, it wouldn't seem worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay, Corey, I could talk to you all afternoon, but I know we are getting close on time. So I want to move into a section that we call rapid fire. So just quick answers, as quick as you can answer in like a sentence or 30 seconds or less.
Are you saying I'm too long-winded?
No, not at all. Actually, fun fact, on almost probably every single rapid fire session we do, I typically extend these and make people go long. But I wrote them today. We'll see if I can get through without asking a follow-up question. Okay. What is a value that you refuse to compromise on no matter what?
Courage. Because I think it's a meta virtue. Without courage, you can't do the other ones.
A quote or phrase that you always come back to when things get hard.
I used to do P90X workouts with Tony Horton. You should look him up. He's a cool guy. He says,
I've done P90X, yeah.
And then you know this, do your best and forget the rest. That's the secret to life. Like, I always ask my kids if they don't get a good grade or something, did you do your best? And if they say, yeah, we're good. And if they say no, we talk.
That's a good gauge. What's one question every leader should regularly ask themselves?
Am I modeling the behavior I'd like to see in others? Am I a leader I would want to follow? Like, would I follow myself?
That's a hard one to think about looking in the mirror on sometimes. What is a hill you'll die on when it comes to leadership?
You mean like if I was working for someone?
Yeah, if you were working for someone or, yeah.
All this academic stuff, I wouldn't die in any of these hills. But if I, because, I have different priorities. But yeah, if I worked for someone I didn't think was a good person, I would leave. And it wouldn't matter how much money I was making or if that person would give me a good reference or not. I would quit and find something else to do.
What trait kills trust the fastest?
Dishonesty.
What is the most underrated leadership skill?
Respect.
What is your favorite place you've ever spoken at?
Oh gosh, I've done 2,000 of these. I don't know. Let me say this. Every time I get to go to AFA, and I know this isn't for those students, but when I get to go to AFA, those students are incredible. And I get like 5 hours with them. And it is like they are thankful, they are grateful, they are kind. It's just kind of the kids that go into this sort of field who become the professionals who are listening to this. They're like wired to be really kind, grateful, good people. And that a speech like that recharges my batteries for the hard ones. Going to talk to a fraternity or, that got in trouble or something like that, or a company that's under investigation. Like, a lot of times they'll bring me in because they're busted or there's a death on campus or something. Like, that's brutal. And those death on campus speeches take years off of my life. And so if it wasn't for AFA, stuff like that, I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
Well, thank you. I love that. Little plug for Leaders Conference, which I promise I wasn't digging for. Okay, moving out of rapid fire, one of the things you said there.
How did I do on that?
You did great. I was just proud of myself. I always want to ask more follow-up questions. And so this is what I'm going to do now, because what you just said sparked something. If I am someone who wants to make more good people in the world, what advice do you have for me? What should I do?
It's the inches, not the touchdowns. Okay, you're not trying to score touchdowns. That's too hard. But you're trying to inch along. And so you make 6 of them. Listen, if everybody did that, we'd be fine. I think a lot of people who are younger in their careers, all they want is the touchdown because we see that as that's all that matters. But touchdowns are hard. So fight for inches.
Yeah, that makes the everyday small interactions with other humans feel like that's where you win the inches.
And if you watch football, if you gain enough inches, you'll score touchdowns.
Okay, so Corey, we always like to, at AFA, we love hot takes. So unconventional or bold opinions. So what is a hot take that you have about leadership or ethics?
That you can go to any leadership training program, right? And you're not likely to find any emphasis on character or integrity. And I think that is a huge mistake. It's not to say that those programs are bad, right? Or taking a leadership class is bad. But if they're not talking about character, man, that is a huge red flag. And so you need to find out how character matters to leadership, then go take those classes. They matter, but if you don't have the foundation right, it's all going to be wasted. Like, for instance, if you go take a leadership training class and they teach you how to leverage power, okay, that's important. I think that's kind of cool. But what if they teach you how to leverage power and influence without talking to you about ethics? Well, you get the business culture we have today in America. So everyone wants to leverage power, but if you don't do it in the right way, you're screwing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's almost like a lot of times we get taught, and I see this, I think, in young leaders, and I'm going to say I see it in a younger version of myself where I wanted to be a leader or I wanted to be at the top or grow. But you're right. If you don't have that foundation of character, it's almost like you're missing pieces of the puzzle is what I hear you saying.
It's the first step, like you said. And why is that a hot take? Like, duh. Well, no one's teaching it. Like I went and looked up all these leadership programs. The word's not even in there. There's no synonym for character and integrity in the ones I saw, and I looked at like 80 of them. So what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like if I look back on some of the leadership classes or things that I have done, a lot of times it does start with that, like, how do you define leadership? A lot of times it's influence, but there is often that conversation of, is like, you can have leaders who are bad, right? So like whether you look at history of politics or, like a Hitler or who starts wars or things like that. So how does that fit into what we're saying here in terms of, like, you need to have this character in order to have success in leadership and growth and all of those things? Maybe we're taking this full circle right now, right? Of like where we started this conversation of, can you be bad and still a good leader?
When you say the word leader to me, it doesn't mean much to me. It's like a lot of people think leader, that's an awesome person. No, it isn't. It's just someone that can compel or influence people to do stuff, right? So go back to this example. When someone dies on a college campus in a basement because they drank too much, there were leaders in that room. They got the kid to go down there. They got him to drink. There's no way to get an 18-year-old kid to do anything he doesn't want to do, right? He was led down there, but they weren't good ones. They were cowards. They were reckless. They were, you know what I'm saying? So you say the word leader to me, I think of that as a neutral term that you have to infuse meaning upon, right? So I would call it a character infused leader. Now you say that to me and I'm impressed.
Yeah. That, even the way you said that, it's like, okay, that's the kind of person I want to be. Character infused leader.
Yeah, it's your only chance, or else you're going to fall into the trap of following the sheep off the cliff of a transactional world, and you're going to chase money over people. You're going to care about your shareholders more than your employees. You're going to, right? Because everyone else is jumping off the bridge. Why don't you? You got to have something that tells you, no, I'm not going to do that, even if it costs me.
Yeah. And I think with our conversation, it sounds like if you're someone who wants to be fulfilled and flourish in life, it's worth the cost.
And this is a good way to end. On no one's tombstone is it written, here lies John Doe, he was rich. Like, find me one. Here lies Jane Doe. She was really pretty. Like, back in her 20s, now she's dead. She's friggin' ugly. Like, she's dead. No one's tombstone talks about how pretty you were, how rich you were, what you're the CEO of blah. It doesn't say that. It says, here lies Jane Doe, loving mother, loving spouse. Here lies John Doe, member of the community, beloved, right? It's going to say that on your tombstone when you die. It might as well matter to you now.
Absolutely. That is a great way to end it. Thank you so much, Corey. This has been...
You're great, Nicole.
Oh,
You're
thank
fabulous.
you. This has been wonderful. I could talk to you, like I said, all afternoon. Well, at AFA, we're all about building bridges and connecting people. So can you tell our audience where they can connect with you and find you?
Yeah, sure. Instagram at Professor Corey, Corey, or just CoreySpeaks.com, CoreySpeaks.com.
Awesome. Well, I highly recommend giving Corey a follow. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. This has been incredible, Corey. We appreciate you being on the Cultivating Leaders podcast. Thanks for listening to the Cultivating Leaders podcast, brought to you by Agriculture Future of America. If you've been here before, you know we value feedback as a gift. Please leave us a review and let us know how we're doing.